Hi, everyone. Welcome to Quazi's 28th Spring Cyber Seminar Series. My name is Liz Tran. I'm the Community Relations Specialist here at Quazi. We're excited to bring you this Cyber Seminar Series on Quazi Water Data Services for supporting scientific research and education. This whole series will focus on will show specific scientific cases and demonstrate how our free and open source software can be used for your research and education. Today's presentation is brought to you by Liza Brazil, and her presentation is on data archiving and dissemination tools to support water science research. So take it away, Liza.
Hi everyone, my name is Liza Brazil. We're using the webcam today, so you get to see me, but I don't get to see you. I'm the Quazi product manager here, and I'm going to be presenting today on data archival and dissemination tools to support your research, management, and education. So I think we originally had just in the title to support your research, but as I was going through this, I was thinking it's really important to emphasize that a lot of our tools actually go beyond just researchers, and they really facilitate data managers, educators, and graduate students, undergraduate students, and so on. So just expanding on that a little bit. Before we get started, I want to give a little shout out to the upcoming cyber seminars, also hosted by Quazi, some of my coworkers. So today we're really going to focus on data management plans, best practices for data management, and sort of why it's important. And then we're going to move into some of the Quazi tools and services that support these data management processes. So one thing to note, today we'll be mostly presenting on Quazi tools and services that support for time series data. But next week, Mark's going to be expanding on that to other data types and models. So he'll be presenting on kind of similar topics, but he's going to shift the focus to tools for collaborative research and data management for any data type and model, as I said. So if you're thinking today, you have some time series data, but you also have different data types, definitely tune into next week. And then the following week, April 27th, my coworker, Anthony, we call him Tony, he'll be presenting on cyber infrastructure to support water science education and reproducible science. So just bringing that all together, a lot of what we're going to be focusing on today is data management plans and data management best practices. But really the importance of all of that is to be able to enable reproducible science. If you have a bad data management plan and bad data practices, then it's really going to be tough to help support that reproducible science. Okay, so let me give you a little outline of what we're going to discuss today. I'll give you first a brief introduction about Quazi, kind of who we are and what we do, but I'll keep this pretty short so we can focus on the rest. I want to encourage you all to ask questions as you think of them. So you'll just use the chat box in the webinar software. And then throughout the presentation, I'll stop about 3 times to answer the questions that come up as we go. So I really want to try to make this as interactive as possible. I know cyber seminars can be tough that way, but let's go for it. So the next couple things I'll be focusing on are data management lifecycle. So thinking about what you do from the very beginning of having a question, collecting data, and so on and so forth. And then talking about the importance of data management plans and some best practices for data management. Then we'll kind of shift gears into how Quazi can actually help you with all of these things that we're going over, especially data management plans. And then towards the end, I'll do several demonstrations of Quazi resources and tools to actually support data archival and dissemination. Then we'll wrap up with some potential next steps for kind of like how you can get involved after this webinar in terms of using our services and tools for archival and dissemination. And then I'll give you a nice summary and we can do questions after that as well. So first off, what what is Quazi? Who are we? We're a nonprofit consortium. We have about 130 members, and these members include U.S. academic institutions, nonprofits. We have some international university affiliates as well, and we're also open to private organizations. So our main mission, and this is our newest mission, is to shape the future of hydrologic science. So obviously this is a really big endeavor, but we do this in 3 different ways: strengthening collaboration, developing and delivering data models, instrumentation, and technologies, and promoting education. And we're primarily funded for 2 key activities. So these include community services and then data and model services, which is what we'll focus on mostly today. All right, so some of our community services, hopefully you guys are familiar with these. What we try to do with community services is provide access to trainings and resources that really go beyond what your one university or institution can offer. So we do a bunch of different things, and they come in the form of travel grants, fellowships, providing coordination and support. So some of the things that we help facilitate are learning a new instrumentation method, engaging your local community on water issues through film, developing or improving data tools, adding a new field site to your existing research. So if you're interested in expanding your research beyond your one university site, we facilitate that by grants. Another really cool one is the Summer Institute at the National Water Center. So if you haven't heard of that, definitely look it up. It's a 7-week program. It's really prestigious, really great for professional development. And then we have just really helping you guys to collaborate with researchers at other institutions, so through community events and so on. So one of the community services that we do provide is the biennial, so the Quazi-hosted biennial. And so this is in West Virginia in July at the National Conservation Training Center. And the theme this year is hydrologic connections, climate, food, energy, environment, and society. I definitely encourage you to come. It's a really fun time in terms of great networking and also great science. So there's workshops this year on drones and the NASA SWAT mission. We also have sessions that are on water and climate, hydrologic feedbacks, energy water systems. So if any of that interests you, definitely think about coming. All right, and then the second key thing that we're funded for are data services. So we provide a diversity of data services that facilitate research and education. So a lot of our tools help for sharing, discovering, analyzing, modeling, and publishing all types of water data in a collaborative environment. And so these are really free, open source softwares. A lot of what we do is helping you to fulfill your data management plans through our tools and services. Our services are also used for research, as I kind of mentioned, but they're also used in classrooms for data-driven education. And then we're really always trying to develop new software to meet community needs. So we are a community-driven organization, so we're always looking for, what tool to develop next, so what's needed out there. All right, so this is just one example of one of our data services called Hydra Client. So it's just a screenshot, and I'll go through an actual demo of this later in the presentation. But as you can see, just to give you a broad overview, it's a web mapping application that allows you to search for multiple sources all in the same format. It also allows you to preview and download it as well. So it's bringing together federal agency data, university research data, community groups that publish with us, and so a diversity of data all in the one place, all in one format. All right, so I'm going to hand this over to Liz just to talk about some events and deadlines, and then we'll move into a question section.
All right, everybody. So as you know, Liza talked about how we have some travel funding and events, especially by a colloquium. Some key deadlines to start thinking about. We have our IDTDG grant that's coming up to submit a proposal by the 16th, which is Monday, and that is providing $1,000 of travel funding to visit a colleague to learn a new instrumentation technique. Another one to think about too is submitting a poster to present at the biennial colloquium. We do offer $500 travel grants on a first come first served basis for you to attend and present there. Also, obviously, think about attending our conference. And then we have 2 upcoming workshops. One in September. The deadline to register for that is July 15th, and it's the Near Surface Geophysics for Hydrology workshop in Laramie, Wyoming. And then another one that will be hosted in January in Bozeman, Montana is the Stowe Measurement Field School, and that requires an application. So you must submit your applications by August 1st for that one. So please take advantage of all these programs. It's a great opportunity for you guys to expand your research and then meet everyone in our community.
All right, thanks, Liz. All right, so we're going to move into just a question section. So I don't know, Liz is going to let me know if we have any questions so far. I don't think we have any questions.
Nope, no questions.
All right, cool. So we'll move on now. So we kind of just gave a little introduction to Quazi, some deadlines for Quazi. So now let's move into kind of the nitty-gritty of the presentation. All right, so we're going to shift gears into data management lifecycle. So I kind of like to start off with this. It's an exercise I usually do in person, so I usually have, everyone draw a flow chart and kind of show it to me. But just for now, just kind of think about what you do with your data from the very beginning of your project to the very end. So, maybe you have a question and you go and collect data and then you organize it. So just kind of think that through. All right, so maybe some of you had some similar flowcharts going on. Just to kind of describe what there's always going to be different versions of this, but one of the most ideal processes for this, and this is coming from Data One, is coming up with your question first, obviously. You may go out there and look for data to reuse to answer your original question. See if someone has done something similar in research. Then you really want to concentrate on your data management plan. So the crucial part of this is to have your data management plan done before your collection. So data management plans are required by most funders, and it helps to document the life cycle of your data, provides details on data collection, storage, processing, analysis, sharing, tons of stuff. So it's really important that you have that all done before you actually start collecting. And so then you may move into a collection part of it and have a cyclical process of describing the data, analyzing, recollecting, and you want to store that data somewhere, obviously. Then you might move into the archival process. So hopefully you're looking at a collaborative environment, somewhere to put that data online for reuse. And the importance of that is really so that way when you get into that data search reuse part of this cycle, someone else is having the same question that you had. If you put your data out there, then they can obviously find it and reuse it. And then that last part of it is, obviously publishing your paper and citing the data that you used for the research online. All right, so getting into data management plans. So you may have heard of data management plans. Hopefully you have. So they usually contain, sorry to back up a minute here. Data management plans are, again, they're required by most funders. And when you submit a proposal, data management plans is a big part of that proposal. So if your funder, say NSF, doesn't like your data management plan, they most likely will ask you to redo it before accepting your proposal. So that's kind of why it's important to you. Why it's important in the big perspective of things is it adds to the reproducibility of science. So it usually contains the types of data that you'll be either collecting or deriving, the standards to be applied. For example, are you using an accepted metadata structure, provisions for archival and preservation, so where are you actually going to store this data? How is it going to be preserved into the future? And then access policies, is it going to be widely available and open to the public? Is there some kind of restraint on the data where you need to keep some private? So going into all of the details of this. All right, so obviously taking a step back from data management plans, one of the main reasons why funders actually require data management is to increase best practices for data management. So, having a good data management plan means that you've had improved data organization, improved reproducibility, and improved capacity for data reuse. So really all these best practices facilitate the reproducibility of science. So a couple things to highlight. There's a ton of resources out there for best practices for data management, but just a few to highlight. Don't mess with the raw data. You always want to keep a copy of the raw data, and then if you're going to make any changes to it, any curation, you want to have a separate version of it. Another one to highlight, you want to archive your data in a non-proprietary data format. So believe it or not, Excel, MATLAB, all proprietary. You want to try to stay away from that. And the importance of that is so that others can always open your data to promote that reuse. Another one, you want to preserve your data, put it in the cloud somewhere. Don't let it get lost on a local computer somewhere. And then maintaining metadata in an accepted standard. So your funder will definitely harp on picking a metadata structure that's widely accepted. So kind of bringing this back into how does Quazi fit into all this? So how can we actually help with your data management and data management plans? Well, one of the ways that we do help is we provide boilerplate text for data management plans that you can use pretty much verbatim. So if you're using our data services, we provide that text for you to insert into your data management plan saying, we're going to use this metadata structure accepted by Quazi, that's used by Quazi and widely accepted. We're going to use Quazi tools to make the data widely available. And another thing is we really give one-on-one support for reviewing your data management plan. So if you come to us and you say, hey, we're going to use your services and we're trying to really get this data management plan to be perfect, we'll review it, we'll give you some feedback and try to help you along there. And another one that I kind of already mentioned is we have resources for organizing your metadata into an accepted standard. So we have a template to follow that is an accepted metadata structure. And then lastly, which is kind of our biggest thing, is tools for archiving and disseminating your data to fulfill your data management plan. All right, so let's pause for a second. We talked about data management plans, what they are, why they're important, how to increase reproducibility, and some best practices for data management. So let's see. Do we have any questions so far? No questions.
If anyone has any questions, please type into the questions chat box. Yep, no questions so far.
All right, moving along then. Okay. So we're going to switch gears into data archival dissemination using Quazi tools and resources. Okay, so for this part of the presentation, I'm really going to focus on how Quazi can actually provide tools and resources to help you through data management plans and data management best practices. So a major component of your data management plan will be describing what repository you archived your data in and how you made it accessible. And so the first step to archiving with Quazi is to create a publishing account. So we're going to do some demoing now. One of the things, so for creating a publishing account, we use the Hydra server uploader. So I'm going to kind of go through that so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. But one of the things that most users do is, so the way to create a Hydra server account, so a publishing account, is through your Google account. So the first thing you want to make sure is you have a Google account to link to that. And a lot of people will create a shared Google account sort of for their research team or their lab. So that way, if, you know, the one person in charge leaves, they're not screwed. So that way, there's multiple responsibilities shared. All right. So let's go to hydraserver.quazi.org. And so just give me a second here. I'm going to shift into my browser. All right, so you guys should be able to see a web page here. All right. So if you go to hydraserver.quazi.org, what I'm showing you right now is just how to create a publishing account. So the reason you would want to create a publishing account is if you have time series data that you want to make publicly available through our services. So bringing this back to the data management plan, this is where you're archiving your data. This is where you're using a metadata structure and so on. So that would be the reasons for doing this. So the first step to really just creating a publishing account. So it's just a few simple steps. So you want to go to hydraserver.quazi.org. You want to click on Create New Publishing Account. I've already done that because I need to log into my Google. All right, so right now I'm just going to go to create a publishing account. I have to answer a few simple questions. As soon as you answer these questions and click Create, you'll get a verification email and your database will automatically be set up. All right. All right, so we're gonna shift back to the PowerPoint now, but just again, that was just an easy way to get started for creating a publishing account with Quazi. So you should be able to see my PowerPoint again, shifting back into another part of formatting your data and metadata. So we require that you format your data to fit with the observations data model. So the importance of this for you is that that's a widely accepted metadata structure. So you're able to write that into your data management plan to say that you've abided by this structure that's widely accepted. For us, it's important because we then use that for making the data available all in the same format. So when I go through Hydra Client later on, you'll kind of see all the data is in the same exact format, and we're able to do that because we have you format it in a certain way. So I'm going to kind of shift into what the template actually looks like. So I'm not going to describe how to actually fill in that template, but we'll kind of just give you an idea of what it looks like and the requirements for it. And so one thing to know before I do that is there's two options for formatting your data. We have a standard format template and an advanced format template. So for the advanced format template, There's more fields to fill in, so the standard is really just a subset of that advanced. The reason and what matters to you is looking through the advanced format. You would use it if you have data that requires that you show qualifiers or flag data, if you have chemical data where you need to describe in detail about the lab methods, that sort of thing. But if you have just standard time series data, say for instance temperature data or discharge data, standard format template is really just fine. All right, so let me just give you a nice little view of what that format looks like. Okay. So the first couple sheets here kind of just describe how it works. Some of the things to point out: you always want to populate your metadata first and then your data values. There's only about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metadata tables and 1 data values table that's required. We have controlled vocabulary, which is also a good thing to put into your data management plan, that we adhere by that. Then we have the description of the tables, and then kind of moving forward, we just have basic information about the metadata. So not too many fields, just describing what you've actually measured. Methods, describing how you measured it. Where, obviously. And then who measured it and what organization to give credit to. And then what level of quality control your data actually is. So we don't actually curate the data, but what we ask is that you provide explanation for how quality controlled your data is. So that way, if a user finds it, they can really understand what kind of data they're working with. And then the data values table just brings it all together. All right. So we'll shift back into, we have about 2 to 3 more demos. I'm getting a little feedback here. Oh, sounds like it went away. All right, so remember to ask questions as we go along if anything kind of pops up. All right, so we just went over formatting your data to that widely accepted metadata structure. Now we're going to get into the part of actually uploading your metadata and data values to your database. So I'm going to show you how easy it really is to upload all this to your database in order to make it public. So the cool thing about the uploader, so it's called the Hydra server uploader, is there's built-in checks for formatting errors, updating and duplicate checking. Again, we can give multiple individuals access to one database to really spread that responsibility. And we can keep the data private until the paper publication is ready. And so you can do uploading for bulk metadata and bulk data values at once. And it's really just a simple drag and drop. So we'll just show you kind of what that looks like here. All right, so this is after you've created a publishing account, which I showed in the very beginning. You verified your email. The next time that you go to that Hydra server homepage and you click existing publisher, you get to go straight into your database, which should be empty. Then if you decide to go forward with that standard upload, you can go to standard upload. So we'll just do a little demo here to show you kind of what it looks like. All right, so I have some example data here. I've formatted my data. Remember the template was multiple sheets. So I've actually saved each of those sheets as a separate CSV. And I'm going to just drag and drop some of these over. Oopsies. So remember, I'm uploading my metadata first, and then I'll move into my data values. All right. So I've loaded all of my data into my database. I'm going to start by just beginning my upload. So there's just a couple steps here. All right, so I've loaded the files. I'm going to continue. Looks like I don't have any issues with the header files. So at this point, if you were missing an actual header file, then we would ask you to fix it and re-upload it. But I have everything correct here, so I'm going to complete the upload. I'm going to go into upload summary. All right, so this is where I'm kind of getting that check that I was talking about, so that check to make sure that you formatted the data correctly and everything looks good. So there's a few columns to pay attention to here. Inserted data, so data that just correctly went in, you formatted it right. Updated, do you have metadata that's already in there that you actually want to change, maybe a lat long that you messed up originally. Duplicates, which we remove automatically. And then rejected. So why did I get this rejection? Let's check it out. All right, so I'm checking it out and I'm seeing that it looks like I forgot to put lat long datum into the actual lat long. So cool functionality here. We can just edit that right here. And we're going to use control vocabulary and put that in. We can do the same for the others. And looks like I made the same mistake here. All right. This last one's telling me I have invalid characters. So this is a check on the formatting. So I put some invalid characters into the site code. So I want to make sure that I'm just using a site, just using text in this field. So I'm just going to say site 2. All right. So I've made my changes. Hopefully they're correct. We're going to check it out and say re-upload. Looks like all records were re-uploaded. Great. Now, I would have to do the same for methods, but we're just going to skip over that just to give you an idea of kind of how it works. So it's pretty much just an easy drag and drop all my metadata files. Did I format it correctly? If not, let me fix it in the browser. Go to finish. And so then you would do the same thing for data values. So pretty easy process. And then you can always check to make sure that it actually went in on your database homepage. All right. So we're going to shift gears. We have 2 more demos. Okay, so kind of thinking back onto that data management lifecycle. So at this point, you know, we've collected the data, we have our data management plan. We're going to follow through with that data management plan. We're going to archive the data with Quazi and make it public so that way it can be reused by others. So with making your data public, as soon as you make your data public on your database level, so the software that we were just looking at, it becomes discoverable on Hydra Client. So I'm going to show you kind of what Hydra Client looks like. So the data is updated on a weekly basis. So if you add data to your database, it'll show up on Hydra Client weekly. So some of the benefits of really publishing your data with Hydra Client, is that the data are available to the broader community through Quazi water data services. These are things that you can really put into your data management plan. So these last 3 bullet points here, Quazi maintains the database on their servers in perpetuity. Quazi provides long-term data archiving and data publication through Hydra Client. So this is verbatim things you can put directly into your data management plan. All right, so let's give a little demo of kind of what Hydra Client looks like. Oops. Give me a second here to navigate to my tab. All right. So we can navigate to data.quazi.org. That's where you can find Hydra Client. To give you a background again, this is just a pretty simple mapping application. It brings together multiple sources in one location. It allows you to search temporally as well as spatially, as well as some more advanced filtering over here. But the really cool thing is it's a ton of different data from multiple sources all in one place, all in the same format. So we can narrow down our area of interest by going to Boston. This is actually right by where we are located at Quazi. We're in Cambridge, right next to Boston. All right, so we can kind of narrow down our scope here. So first of all, we set our area of interest. So we're going to just be searching on the map interface that's showing now. If we wanted a larger view, we would, obviously zoom out and it would search over that larger view. We can select different date ranges. So I'm going to go back to 2010. So we're going to just narrow that down. I'm going to save it. Can also narrow it down by data sources. So we have about 100 here. We're just going to keep this open. One cool thing to note is we do have some NASA data services, so some gridded data services that are spatially aggregated. We're going to keep that open. We can also filter by keywords. So if you're looking for a specific variable of interest, this is always a good way to do it. And then we have some advanced search options. So say, for instance, you're looking for barium in surface water in Pennsylvania. The way to narrow that down is here. All right, so if we do a broad search, so we're just going to look to see what data actually comes back here. All right, so in just this little area from 2000 to 2018, looks a bit like we have about 2,000 time series. We can either scroll over the data marker to see who the data source is that's actually published data in that area. And also the number next to it is the number of time series associated with it. If we zoom in, we'll be able to see specifically more where the data locations are. But for now, we're just going to kind of look at the full screen. So let's look at all the results that are actually on this map right now. And so maybe we want to narrow this down a little bit more. Say, for instance, we want to narrow down some of our keywords or perhaps our data services. So just in the small area, we have data that's coming from, so a community organization like citizen scientists are the top 2. We have some NASA data, we have some university data, and some federal data. So really a mixed bag here. So let's just pick a couple keywords and kind of see what's out there. So let's go into chemical, dissolved gas. Let's look at dissolved oxygen. And we'll also look at some turbidity. Water. All right, so let's click these two filtering. Let's apply that filter now. Okay, so we can either select these data series directly here and do something with them, or we can go to the map and figure out if we want to narrow it down that way. So if we just click, all right, let's click on this guy here. Let's select a couple data series of interest. So right now I'm just looking at the table of search results at that one location. I have some metadata here to kind of narrow down and explain what I'm actually looking at. And so let's just pick some dissolved oxygen. And I'm just going to click to highlight that data series and do something with it. So I can either export this data right now to my local computer as a CSV, or I can bring it to my workspace. So my workspace is kind of like, if you think about your library, so it's where you can save data to. So if you sign in with your Google account, which you can see I have, then the data actually gets saved to your workspace beyond that browsing session. So if you want to save some dissolved oxygen today and then look at it in 3 weeks, you can just go back to your workspace and find that data and look at it there. So it's just a nice way to save some data. And you'll see there's two other things that are in my workspace because earlier today I was playing around and I saved some data there. So we're going to look at the first two data series. I'm going to select my tool. I'm just going to choose to view it. And so you'll see a nice preview of the plot here. And so you can, zoom into a date range where we can see some correlation here. We can get some metadata below. So really the idea behind this is just kind of, if you're interested in an area and you're looking for data, a certain variable, then you can preview it easily. Maybe you know of an area of interest you're looking for, but you're not sure what data is really out there or who's publishing data there. So it's really a good way to kind of figure that out. And so you have some nice data stats here as well. All right. Okay, so we have one more demo and then we're going to kind of wrap up here. All right, so a big part of your data management plan is actually proving that you went through with your data publication like you said you were going to. So the way that Quazi helps you to provide that proof is providing you with a DOI for your data. The DOI can direct to the Quazi catalog, which I'll show you next, where you can actually include information about your funding agency, a summary of your published data, a citation to use, papers that use the data. So it's a nice landing page to show, hey, this is where we archived our data. This is some information. And you can also use in your data management plans to point to Hydra Client to really show that others can discover, view, and download that data now alongside federal agencies, again, community groups, university researchers, and this is all in the same format using Hydra Client. All right, so we are going to look at the Quazi catalog. Oops. Okay, so here's just one example. I'm using another computer today, but normally there would be a little spatial map of where your data is actually published, so where it's been collected and published. So, but just to give you an example of kind of what the Quazi catalog looks like. So you can point your federal or you can point your funding agencies here to show that, hey, the data has really been published and we've given you credit. So just some things to point out: a citation, the DOI that we provided for the data, some information about the funding agency here, and then the journal articles that cite where the actual data was actually used for the research. And then some statistics on how many values that you've actually published with us. All right. So we're going to wrap this up a little bit. Just to point out some potential next step for you. Creating a publishing account to really get started with publishing data, downloading formatting templates so you can get this on our website, and then really checking out Hydra Client to discover some different data. All right, so kind of to summarize what we went over today. We talked a lot about data management plans and how they should really come before data collection. We talked about some of the best practices for data management and how it ultimately increases your reproducibility. And really the point of data management plans is to get that data management really improved. And then talking about Quazi, we provide resources and tools for data archival and dissemination. So really just to help you with that data management and to fulfill the data management plans. And then lastly, really encourage you to attend the upcoming cyber seminars. It'll really bring you full circle in terms of the whole data life cycle and how we can actually help you throughout each component of that. All right, so do we have any questions?
Let's give it a few minutes if people, so they can type in their questions. I'll read them out loud. So don't forget, if you have a question, please type it into the questions chat box. So Pam Knox asks, is there a cost to this?
So there is no cost. We do not charge for hosting data or for giving you any kind of one-on-one help with the data management plan. So we're funded by NSF to support the community, so that's how we do it.
Vanna Kaki said, no questions, but thanks for the presentation.
Sure thing. Yeah, if anyone has questions that kind of pop up later, my next slide is my contact information. So I definitely encourage you to reach out. You may not be at the point of actually thinking about your data management plan, but if you're at any point of having a research question, it's really good to start thinking about it now rather than later in the process.
And then just to note, if you do want to revisit this presentation, it is being recorded and we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel, but also it'll be in our Cyberseminars archive on the Quazi website. And then while we're still waiting for questions, please keep in mind, if you're interested in any of our upcoming events or programs, please let us know. April 16th is the deadline for instrumentation travel grant. And then May 1st is the deadline to submit an abstract to present a poster at the Quazi Biennial. So please do take advantage of that. All right, it looks like we don't have any questions.
All right, well, thank you all for listening. And remember just to reach out if anything pops up. We can help you publish your data and help you with your data management plans.
Oh, wait, there was a question popping up. So,
all right.
Yusen, the question is it able to also combine other existing hydrological data information like USGS data that we have, that we can have a view for the total data availability? That makes sense.
I don't know if I completely understand this. So you're asking if we can, so maybe you can expand on that. So asking if we can provide or if we can archive additional metadata, or is there any further description in there?
Yeah, you can, if you want to expand on that a little bit. I'm thinking probably she says it doesn't need to be archived, but just the information if it's available for that view.
So so can you give me an example of the type of information that you would like to be archived with us?
Yifan, she says like groundwater level, stream flow.
Oh yeah, so we have a ton of groundwater level stream flow data available in our system already. So many people have formatted that data and published it with us. We also already have USGS data, groundwater level data. So whether you are particularly looking to publish that data, or if you're looking to find USGS groundwater level data, we have both of those.
All right. Next question. Is there an API so that I can feed the data directly into a web app without downloading it?
Yes. So we didn't really cover that. I think the next couple of cyber seminars will be a little bit more technical, but we do have an open API. So you can retrieve the data through WaterML. So a lot of our users are using RStudio, which has a package called WaterML R package, and you can actually retrieve the data directly from our API. And you can make calls directly through it, through a programming interface.
All right, next question is, do you already have public databases like weather data from NOAA or Streamflow like USGS?
Yes. So Hydra Client has federal agency data that includes pretty much all of the NWIS, DV, and UV USGS data. We have a ton of NOAA data. We have a ton of NASA data. We have a little bit of EPA data. Yeah, so there's a fair amount of federal agency data there, and that's kind of like one of the biggest benefits of using Hydra Client is you have that really the federal agency data, but then you also have the smaller research data from different universities and organizations that you wouldn't normally find.
All right, next question is there a limit for the size of uploaded data?
We haven't hit an actual limit yet in terms of data values. I think our largest, without knowing off the top of my head, we haven't really set a limit yet because no one's actually exceeded our limit. So short answer being no, there is not a limit. There is a limit to the actual uploader interface. So we encourage you to upload about 500,000 data value rows at a time. But really, we haven't hit any boundaries for the actual amount of data that your database can hold.
Okay, any other questions before we wrap up the thing? Oh, one more question. Other than downloading from the website, do we have a script or FTP to download data?
Yep. So this is kind of what I was referring to. I think if you're getting at the same thing, so in order to access our catalog, we have an open API. So that means that you can program to get that data directly via a script. So the language that it's transmitted is called WaterML. So there's an R package to get that directly, and there's some other ways as well.
All right, any more questions?
So I will say if you're interested in kind of the more technical aspect of how to get large amounts of data via scripting, I would definitely try to attend the Cyberseminar. I believe it's the last one, which is the 27th, I think. So Tony Castronova is really going to go into detail with that. He's going to talk a little bit about Jupyter Notebooks, and with Jupyter Notebooks, you can really grab large amounts of data and do analysis online.
All right, it looks like we have no more questions. I think we can wrap things up. Call it a day.
All right. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and really feel free to follow up with me.
All right, have a good day, everybody.